Hi, welcome back to Mental Override. If you click the link below, you're interested in some mental health and perhaps some mental override. Hi, my name's Adam, and on this channel, I help coach you in exercising your ability to overcome fear and live intentionally. And I have to say it's an exercise because it does take practice, and it's like a muscle that we grow. Fear is usually the thing that stops us or inhibits us from fully expressing ourselves, being fully alive, living our truth, living our vision, becoming the highest version of ourself. And today I wanted to talk about mental health and my experience. Um, I guess in no way is this coaching, counseling. If you need a therapist, definitely see a therapist and seek professional help. I know I have at times, and that's what I wanted to talk about today. Um, in the last few months, I had a car accident where I was hit by a car, and it affected me mentally. It still is, and I had doubts about myself, beliefs about myself that weren't true, and I was struggling. I was struggling to be encouraged. I was struggling to get on my bike. Struggling with day to day with a lot of brain fog. I still have brain fog. Even making these videos have been really difficult. But I guess there's kind of two things I wanted to talk about today. Um, a lot of times. Um, we wear masks. And sometimes our environment causes us to do that. We're in a place that isn't healthy. We're in a place that we shouldn't be. And we have to be someone who we're not just to survive. Sometimes we wear these masks because we are afraid to express who we truly are. And I think Jim Carrey has a really good talk about this, about like depression. And he says it's when your body needs deep rest because it's tired of being the character that you aren't. See, when we continually put on a mask and we become something that we aren't, we're at odds with our spirit, with our body, with being our true selves because we're becoming a product of our environment. We become a product of the thoughts that we think, the beliefs that we have. So I wanted to look at one of my core values, and two of them, well, I guess two of them. One is authenticity, and the other is community. And during this month, especially during mental health awareness, I realized that I couldn't do it on my own, that I needed to ask someone else for help, um, that being authentic, to actually say how I really felt, I had to say that I wasn't doing good and that I needed to have more grace for myself and more compassion for myself during this time. It meant not riding my bike as usual as I did. It meant taking time to rest and recover, as my body was giving me all this feedback. My sensors, my emotions were telling me your body needs rest. You can't push it to only go as fast as my body allows. And then I found negative thoughts coming in my head. And these negative thoughts were, this isn't going to end. You're going to continue to feel this pain over and over and over again. And I knew that through time that things would get better, and they are getting better. But it's still difficult. But I had to reach out and I had to talk to people in my community, um, a therapist, and some of my closest friends, and to share with them authentically what I was going through. And it was quite liberating. It was quite liberating to overcome fear, to be authentic. You know, there's this saying in the Bible, and you may have heard it other places, that the truth will set you free. And if we continue to hide behind the masks that we wear, not being able to be vulnerable and to share what's really going on, we deny our humanity. We deny the true experience of being human, the lowest lows and the highest highs. We try to cover them up and say, no, I'm fine. You know, for all you men out there, I'm a former infantryman, a sergeant in the Canadian Forces. If you think that you're tough and you're too tough to be vulnerable with people, you're wrong. It is necessary in many situations to be authentic and to share. Now, you may disagree with that. There may be a circumstance where it's not recommended to share your vulnerability with people who will abuse it. And I get that. But there is a necessary part of having others and having community. There's this been movement, and maybe you've seen it. I know I have, to be independent. I call it the Oprah movement. It's this concept that one person on their own, this self-made man or woman, was able to accomplish this great thing and they didn't need anyone else and they were really proud of it. I'd like to suggest that perhaps interdependence rather than independence has value. Now, I get that there are things that we need to do on our own, the things that we create and come from within us. A lot of that has to do with creativity, and that's fine. But to be proud that we did it on our own, it can really be isolating. So I wanted to warn you, but guard about that. People who say, I don't need anyone else, I'm doing it all on my own. You may run into a situation where that's not possible. And I know for me, because one of my values were community, I realized that we can do greater things together than we can alone. A primary example would be the bike park that we started in Red Deer. I started it with my best friend, and then it turned into 4 or 5 people. We formed a board and built a bike park here in our city. But we couldn't have done it by ourselves. It took vision, it took leadership, but it took a community. And in the same way, our mental health can require other people, whether it's sharing in the suffering together, whether it's confessing what's on our heart, whether it's removing the mask that we're tired of wearing, when our body calls for deep rest because it's tired of putting on a performance and not being authentic. I want to encourage you to speak what you believe is true, to speak your authentic truth to someone who is close to you and someone who is safe and will listen. And I hope that you have the eyes to see who that person is and the opportunity for it to happen. Second, I want to encourage you to reaffirm your belief statements, the I am statements, the I will statements. See, whether you believe you can or you can't, a lot of the times you're right. If you believe that you're afraid of something and that you can't do it, fear, you give it the power already. If you imagine and feel yourself as someone who can overcome what you're struggling with, you will. And so daily, I have to wake up and re-engage my mind and my environment and reassure myself of who I want to become, what's most important. Because our mind is like a program, and it runs on a software that we program. And what we speak and what we believe is the program that's on the loop in our mind. I talk a bit about that in another video. Um, but I want to thank you for joining me today. Uh, if you can, like, subscribe, and comment. If you would like to engage in some comments, I've been afraid a lot of times in my life. I've faced death many times. I've had multiple major surgeries, and these things can be scary, and you don't need to be alone. Even if you need to comment on here, I'd be glad to respond to you if you're struggling through something, or you can message me as well. But I hope you're having an awesome day. And remember that we need community, we need each other, and we need to be authentic, especially if we are engaging in issues of mental health. As long as we hide behind our addictions, we hide behind our self-medicating, we can't expose what needs to be healed or expose the truth of the situation. So keep that in mind. Be sure to take some time to love yourself and love each other, overcome fear, and live intentionally. Thank you.